A man came home early that night, and what he saw inside his own house froze his heart. A love he trusted with everything was standing in a moment he could never forget. And in just 1 second, his entire world started falling apart. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness and emotional real-life stories like this, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, like this video, and comment your thoughts below. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories that remind the world what kindness truly means. Now, let's begin. Daniel was an ordinary man living in a quiet suburb of Ohio, USA. He worked as a software technician in a small company, nothing flashy, nothing extraordinary. But he had one thing in life that made everything worth it, his love story with a woman named Emily. They met 3 years ago at a coffee shop during a rainy afternoon. Emily had dropped her books, and Daniel helped her pick them up. That small moment turned into a conversation, that conversation turned into friendship, and slowly, something deeper grew between them. Emily was charming, soft-spoken, and carried a sadness in her eyes that Daniel never fully understood. But he loved her anyway. He believed love didn't require perfect explanations, just trust, care, and presence. For Daniel, Emily was his future. But sometimes, love hides cracks you don't see until it's too late. In the beginning, everything felt perfect. Weekend dinners, long drives, late-night talks about dreams and fears. Daniel often imagined proposing to her one day in a simple, beautiful way, nothing fancy, just pure emotion. But over time, small changes started appearing. Emily became distant. Her replies were slower. Her smiles didn't reach her eyes anymore. She started working late more often, saying she had new responsibilities at her office. Daniel wanted to believe her. He told himself that maybe she was just stressed. Love teaches patience, he thought. But patience sometimes blinds the heart. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. It had been a tiring day, and all he wanted was to surprise Emily with her favorite takeout and spend a quiet night together. The house was unusually silent. No music. No TV. No sign of Emily in the kitchen. He called out her name. No answer. Then he noticed something strange. Her phone was on the dining table, which she never left behind. A strange feeling grew inside him. He slowly walked toward the bedroom. And that's when everything changed. The door was slightly open. Daniel pushed it gently. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Emily was there, but she wasn't alone. A man stood near her, someone Daniel recognized from her office photos she once showed him casually. Their closeness was not something you could misunderstand. It was real. Too real. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Time itself felt broken. Emily quickly stepped back, her face turning pale as she saw Daniel standing there. Daniel. I can explain, she said, her voice shaking. But Daniel didn't hear her words. He only heard the sound of his trust breaking into pieces. The men quietly left the room without saying a word, leaving silence behind like a heavy shadow. Emily tried to reach Daniel, but he stepped back. Was this going on for long? He asked, his voice low and controlled, but full of pain. Emily looked down. That silence answered everything. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a moment. It was something that had been growing behind his back while he believed in forever. Daniel felt like the ground beneath him disappeared. Everything he built, every memory, every promise, suddenly felt like a lie. That night, Daniel didn't shout. He didn't break things. He didn't create a scene. He simply walked out. Outside, the cold air hit his face, but it felt nothing compared to the burning inside his chest. He sat in his car for hours, staring at nothing. His phone kept ringing, Emily calling again and again, but he didn't answer. For the first time in years, Daniel felt completely alone. Not because he had no one, but because the one person he trusted most had become the reason for his pain. Days passed. Daniel stopped going out. He stopped answering messages. Work became a place where he physically existed but mentally disappeared. Friends noticed his silence, but he didn't know how to explain something that felt unexplainable. How do you describe betrayal to someone who has never felt it? But then something unexpected happened. One evening, Daniel went to a nearby grocery store just to get basic supplies. He was standing in line, lost in his thoughts, when he noticed an elderly woman struggling to carry her bags. She looked tired. Her hands were shaking slightly. Without thinking much, Daniel stepped forward. "Let me help you," he said gently. The woman hesitated at first, then nodded with relief. He carried her bags to her car. She thanked him warmly, her eyes full of gratitude. "You have kind eyes," she said softly. "Don't let the world make them cold." Those words stayed with him longer than he expected. For the first time in weeks, something inside him shifted slightly. The next day, Daniel returned to his routine, but something was different. He started noticing small things again, the cashier smiling at customers, a child laughing in the parking lot, a stranger holding the door open. Life hadn't stopped being kind. He had just stopped noticing it. Slowly, he started volunteering at a local community center on weekends. At first, it was just to stay busy. But over time, he began to feel something he thought he had lost forever: peace. Not because his pain disappeared, but because kindness gave it a place to breathe. One afternoon, Emily tried reaching out again. She left a long message, explaining her regrets, her confusion, her emotions. But Daniel didn't reply immediately. For the first time, he didn't react from pain. He thought carefully. Not all apologies fix what is broken. But forgiveness is not always about the other person, it is about freeing yourself. He didn't respond with anger. He simply chose silence. And that silence was not weakness. It was healing. Months passed. Daniel continued his life, not as the man who lost everything, but as someone who rebuilt himself slowly. He still remembered what happened. Pain doesn't erase memories. But he also remembered the old woman at the grocery store. He remembered the community center. He remembered that kindness still existed in the world, even when love had failed him. And slowly, he started believing again, not in perfect love stories, but in human goodness. One day, while helping at the center, he met someone new. Not a dramatic love story. Not instant magic. Just a simple conversation, a shared smile, and a genuine moment of understanding. For the first time, Daniel didn't rush into hope. He let things grow naturally. Because he had learned something powerful. Love without trust breaks easily, but kindness builds something that lasts much longer. In the end, Daniel's story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about what happens after. When your heart breaks, you can either let it harden you, or let it teach you. And Daniel chose the second path. Because even after a love story turned into betrayal, kindness still had the power to bring him back to life. If this story touched your heart, remember this: no matter how painful life becomes, never stop being kind. Because one small act of kindness can heal a heart that the world almost destroyed.